I would now invite Dr. Uthman Lateef to start with the second session of today's lecture shop.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Thank you, Jazakallah khair, for all coming back. And so I was speaking before we broke about the difference between killing in proximity and killing in altitude. Altitude is like a buffer. It creates a distance and detachment from the reality of what's taking place, what's happening. And so I mentioned the Nazis. The Nazis first, they would have summary executions of Jews. They would line them up and then they would be killed with guns. And so what began to happen is that the ones who are doing the killing would feel over time a sense of repulsion because they're seeing so much blood and killing. And so the strategy was devised by the Nazis, which was to introduce the gas chambers. And so when they had the gas chambers, then they would promulgate the fact that it is not the people who are killing the Jews, it is the fan. The fan is running and spinning, and it's a fan doing it rather than the people doing it. That was one thing. The second thing is that when they would kill the Jews, the Nazis were commanded to remove any items of worth. It could be money, it could be possessions, could be gold in their teeth. Take out everything of any worth. But they also had cards, identity cards. And so when the Nazis who would do that killing would remove these identity cards, sometimes the names of those victims were the same names as the mothers and the sisters of the perpetrators. And what would that create? It would create a humanizing. If you have a name, like in Eduardo Galeano's poem, he has a poem called Nobodies. He says, in our world there are nobodies who are nobodied and who are no ones, who are not but could be, who don't speak languages, they speak dialects, who don't have art, they have handicrafts, who don't have names, they have numbers, who are not humans, they are human resources. And so if you don't have a name and you have a number, it means you're devalued, you have no real sense of existence. And this is what's happening. So when you have dehumanization of the other, what you have to do, the people have to strip them of their humanity so that it's much easier for them to be killed. And this exists at a very small level with gang culture and street killing. You have to have a loss of yourself. So I began by saying that. You have to have a loss of yourself before you can take somebody else's life. You lose something innate and natural of a fitrah in yourself before you can do that, because Allah didn't create you to do that. It was against you to do that. In the Quran, Allah says, قُلْ تَعَالَوْا أَتْلُوا مَا حَرَّمَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ. Say, come and I will tell you what your Lord has forbidden on you. One of them is أَنْ لَا تَقْتُلُ النَّفْسِ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. You do not kill a soul except with justification. You do not kill a soul. It's from the mithaq of Bani Israel. وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِثَاقَكُمْ لَا تَسْفِكُونَ دِمَاءَكُمْ. Allah made this as a covenant for Bani Israel. Do not spill the blood of one another. And Sahaba was so strict on this issue. Once the people of Kufa came to Abdullah ibn Umar and they said to Ibn Umar, they had a question. They said, يَسْأَلُونَ عَنِ الذُّبَابِ. They were asking about killing flies. Is it allowed in Islam to kill flies? Like, is it allowed in Islam to kill flies, innocent flies? Is that allowed, And Ibn Umar became so angry with them. He said to the people, look at the stupidity of the people of Kufa. He said, look at the stupidity of the people of Kufa. يَسْأَلُونَ عَنِ الذُّبَابِ وَقَدْ قَتَلُوا Ibn binti Rasulullah. They ask about killing flies while they've just killed the grandson of the Prophet Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu. That they're worrying about small things, about killing flies, and they've killed the Prophet's own grandson sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of the other dangers that we have as a sign before the end of time, and if you put these things together about a human condition where you would have less humanity, you will have greed, miserliness, lack of knowledge, proliferation of ignorance, killing, then what you see taking place is the spectacle of killing. Like what the world witnessed when the Zionist Israelis were bombing from Siderat, watching from Siderat as Gaza was being bombed. And yet all these Zionists, they all came with their chairs and the popcorn. The popcorn and the chairs and the Coke, and they all sat together to watch the bombing campaign. You know, this reminded me what happened in Pakistan some years ago. Many years ago. I don't even remember the details of it, but I know that there was 2 boys in Pakistan. You might remember. Sialkot. 2 boys in Pakistan, yeah. I remember that. We all saw that on the news. All over the world saw it. 2 boys in Pakistan. I don't even know the story. I don't know the context, nothing, except there were 2 boys in Pakistan, and we saw this mob around them. And the police are standing, and everyone's beating them, and they're cutting them, and they're doing terrible things to them. That is a spectacle of suffering. And if you want to really understand what it is about, read Surah Al-Buruj in the Quran. Because Surah Al-Buruj is a template. It is a template. It is to understand all of this. When Allah says, إِذْ هُمْ عَلَيْهَا قُعُودٌ وَهُمْ عَلَى مَا يَفْعَلُونَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ شُهُودٌ. إِذْ هُمْ, even this is one ayah, إِذْ هُمْ عَلَيْهَا قُعُودٌ. Just a few words. إِذْ هُمْ عَلَيْهَا قُعُودٌ. Allah explains everything in these few words. Allah says, when they, alayha, this is, Allah gives emphasis to exaggerate the meaning. The people who are burning these believers alive were not, alayha is over, it means on top of. They were not over on top of the fire, but the scholars, they say it means qaribun min amaliyat at-ta'dhib fa fi'l an-nar, that the perpetrators who were burning believers alive was so close to the fire, they were taking joy in seeing the burning of skin. And so Allah says, idhum alayha, when they were over, looking over, so close to the fire, because they were enjoying what they were seeing. Then Allah used the word qu'ud, and Allah did not use the word julus. And the difference between julus and qu'ud is, if you say ijlis, it means sit down, quickly, then get up. But qu'ud is different. Qu'ud means sit down for a long time, take your rest. Have a seat, take your rest. And so Allah says about these killers that they were over the fire, walking, and they were sitting for a long time, taking their good rest and watching the spectacle of human suffering. And that is happening again and again and again in our world. It happens in schools with school bullying. Now with the smartphone, they call this a smartphone. But what if the smartphone is in the hand of a dumb person? What if the person using the phone is dumb, even though the phone is supposed to be smart? Because if you're using the phone to capture the image of somebody bleeding, or somebody crying, or someone crying and being burned. When the smartphones came about first in England, you had a case of a homeless man who was sitting at the bus stop. And he's homeless. He has no home. And so he's sleeping at the bus stop because he has no place to sleep. And these 2 young kids, they came to him and they put petrol all over his body. Then they lit a match and they set the man on fire. And one of them is capturing the whole thing, laughing, grinning on the phone. And then what do? Stick it straight away on YouTube and Facebook. Let the world see. There was once upon a time people would feel ashamed of what they were doing. But now there is enjoyment. Enjoyment, happiness in all of this. Let the world see. This happens at a micro level and a macro level. It happens in schools, it happens in homes, and it happens in Pakistan, it happens all over the world. And this is a sickness. It is a mental illness. It is a sickness of the heart. If ever you could think there is some enjoyment to get in the pain of somebody else. Why? Because those bonds of us and them, or self and otherness, that's supposed to be joined, particularly when there's Muslims involved. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. Allah says that the believers are brothers. Kullukum, all of you are brothers and sisters. How can you let something like this happen? It means you've broken something, killed something in yourself. You've killed yourself before you've even tried to kill somebody else. And this is a tragedy. And so therefore you have a role. What is the solution for this? In any situation like this, 4 groups of people emerge. We have the perpetrators, the victims, the bystanders, and the rescuers. The perpetrators are the ones doing it. The victims are the poor people stuck in it. The bystanders are those who are just watching it. Either they're watching it and are silent, and that's a crime, or they're watching it and they're laughing and they're enjoying it. Like in schools when someone's poor kid's about to be beaten up, and the people around saying, fight, 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 fight. Egging the people on. I'll tell you something interesting. If you read the accounts of victims, they oftentimes say that the people we are most angry with are the bystanders, not with the bullies. Because they have this propensity to do evil unto others, that's one thing. But the bystanders, we expected them to help us, but they didn't help us. There was a case in England. This Indian man came from India to see his granddaughter or daughter. And he came fresh from India, and he's in the tube, in the train in England, London. And the man is there with his daughter and maybe some other family members, and it's crowded. And you have these thugs, racist thugs, who start picking on the man. The man can't speak English, so he can't answer them back, and he's picking on him and they're laughing at him. Then they start beat him, and they're beating him. The daughter is screaming, asking for help, help, please, somebody come. Nobody's doing anything. You know what they're doing? And there was a picture from the other carriage. People from the other carriage are from the window recording it. What kind of insanity is that? It's like when the Prophet said, إِنَّهُ لَيَنْزِعُ قُولَ أَكْثَرِ أَهْلِ ذَلِكَ الزَّمَانِ. Most people will lose their minds. He said, most people will have no brains. And that's why it will be easy for them to kill and kill and kill. That's why Sahaba, they asked this question. And so therefore, always be careful, be of those who rescue, be of those who help, say something, do something, come to the service of others. This is what it means to be insan, to be a human being. I don't speak Urdu much, hardly. I struggle to tell the man today to iron my clothes in the hotel, in Urdu. But I know something in Urdu. And this is, I know that one of the scholars, when he was speaking to his students, he was saying to them, I haven't come to make any of you scholars. He said, I've come, insan ko insan banana. Insan ko insan banana. I know what that means. He said, I've come to make you humans. Insan ko insan banana. I've come to make you humans. If you don't have that humanity, where is the progress going to be? First, you have to find that humanity in yourself. You have al-hadith al-ula. This would be the first hadith that the scholars would teach their students for hundreds of years in the Islamic world. What is the first hadith? They would teach their students, Ar-Rahimun, Yarhamuhum Ar-Rahman, Irhamu man fil ard, Yarhamuka man fis sama. The merciful ones are those whom the All-Merciful shows mercy towards. Be merciful with those on the earth, and the one in the heavens, Allah, will be merciful unto you. Therefore, always have a path of mercy and teach that to your children. And if this was a topic on mercy, I would speak at length on this topic, but we have to move on. One of the signs of the end of time, the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that there will be إِنَّا سَتَأْتِي عَلَى النَّاسِ سُنُونُ خَدَّاءَ. He said there are coming upon the people years of deceit. يُصَدِّقُ فِيهَا الْكَاذِبُ وَيُكَذِّبُ فِيهَا الصَّادِقُ. Where the one who is honest will be disbelieved and the liar will be believed. People will believe the liar and not believe the one who is speaking the truth. وَيُؤْتَمَنُ فِيهَا الْخَائِنُ وَيُخَوِّنُ فِيهَا الْأَمِينُ. And the one who is trustworthy, they will say he is deceiving us, and the one who is deceiving, they will say that's the one who is trustworthy. Loss of honesty. People won't know who's honest anymore. Is a man speaking the truth, or are others only like these pretentious words coming from his lips, and in his heart all he has is greed and malice, because there's no truth in what he's saying? When the people of Najran came to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and they said, Ya Rasulullah, ib'ath lana rajulan ameen, send a truthful man back to us to teach us, people of Najran. And the Prophet said to them, I will send to you, لَبْعَثَنَّ إِلَيْكُمْ رَجُلًا أَمِينَ حَقَّ أَمِينَ. I will send to you someone who is truthful, and really truthful. And Sahaba are looking and thinking, maybe it's me. Each one is thinking, maybe I'm the real truthful person. And the Prophet sent who? Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah radiallahu anhu. In one hadith the Prophet said, Inna fi kulli ummatin ameen. Every ummah has its trustworthy one. And the trustworthy one from our nation is Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah radiallahu anhu. Once Umar was Khalifa radiallahu anhu, and he was in a big gathering like this, and he asked the people, Tamanna, make a wish. One man gets up and he says, Tamanna, I wish this whole room was full of gold, and I would use that gold in Allah fi sabilillah. Okay, he sat down. Another man, he said again, make a wish. Man gets up and he said, I wish this whole room was full of pearls and rubies and jewels, and I would use all of that in Allah's way. Good, he sat down. He said again, make a wish. A man gets up and he says, you make a wish. No, we're tired of making wishes. Omar says, if I was to make a wish, I would wish for the whole room to be full of men like Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah radiallahu anhu. And it's not just gold going to fix the problems of the ummah, again jewels. It's honest people of transparency and honesty and decency. That's going to help fix our problems. But not liars and deceitful people. The Prophet said there will be years of deceit where people will disbelieve the ones who are speaking the truth and believe the ones who are lying. وَيَنْطِقُ فِيهَا الرُّوَيْبِضَةِ. And he said in those times the Ruwaybidah would speak. And he asked, and they said, and who are the Ruwaybidah? And the Prophet said, As-Safi يَتَكَلَّمْ فِي أَمْرِ الْعَامَّةِ. It will be the most ignorant people speaking about public affairs, speaking about things that may make a difference, mean something important in people's lives. Who's going to speak? The most ignorant people, la'im. In one hadith the Prophet said, one of the signs of the end of time, من أشراط الساعة أن يغلب على الدنيا لُكَعْ ibn Luka. He said from the signs of the end of time is that there will be a lot of Luka ibn Luka. And the Luka is la'im, jahil, safi, ahmaq. He is the most stupid person, ignorant person, mean, silly, cruel person who will have no value. A person of unimportance, speaking about unimportant things. But the people, they will give him a high station. وَهُوَ لَا يَسْتَحِقْ, even though he's not deserving of it. And this is like what you find in our world today. Sometimes there are commentators, sometimes, most of the time, they're celebrities. You're giving people who are selling the world an image, not an ideal, not a value, not a nice way of living, but an image of themselves, a haircut, hairstyle, clothing, fashion. Look at me, look how I'm dressing. You know, an image, that's it, superficiality. But what's absent in this is the ideal, is the value. There was an article in England in the paper, one of the important women, she had an article in the paper, front page, and it said, you know, I love everything about my body. She said, I love my hair, my eyes, my ears, my nose, my legs, my arm, everything. But the only thing that was missing in her article was, I love my ideals, I love my manners, I love my character, I love my values. All of the important things were missing, and all of the less important things were the ones that were there in the front page of the tabloid paper. So people can learn, well, these are the things that make a difference. Why do you think there is bullying and peer pressure and young girls killing themselves because they can't keep up? If that's what you're teaching them, that you have to look like this, and you have to wear these branded clothing, and the poor parents can't afford the branded clothing, and they can't look like that because Allah made them look different. And if that's what you're teaching them, that this is how you're supposed to live, and they can't live like that, they lose hope in life. But whereas if you teach people, no, the Quranic ethic is إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. The most noble of you in the eyes of Allah are those who have the best akhlaq, are those who have the best taqwa. They are the best in the eyes of Allah. Teach people that standard and they will live to it. Because it's an ideal, they can work towards it. But in the end of time, you will have this gross deception of people. And so like I mentioned before, you will have the speeding up of time, you will have mass killing, you will have the spectacle of suffering, loss of honesty. You will have the Ruwaybidah, the proliferation of celebrity culture. People who have no real value except that they, and you know, by the way, that their stage life is so limited. You know, if you think of a celebrity, how long they spend on the stage is very limited. Because the ones who are selling that image, the marketers and the advertising agencies who are making a lot of money from the image of that person, they need somebody who's always beautiful and always has the nicest voice. But no one's voice remains always the most beautiful, and no one's remains always the prettiest or the most handsome, because they age. Allah takes us through phases. We age, you know, and then somebody else will come along and they're more beautiful and better voice, and then they come on the stage, and then they get older, and then they have to move on, and another person comes. It's like that. It keeps going on like that. So it's so superficial and so temporary, and not something for us to be so fixated with. One of the signs before the end of time, and this is about living at the edge of time, the Prophet, he said in the hadith, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Badiru bil a'mal." He said, be quick to do deeds, good deeds. Why? Fitan ka qit'i al-layl al-muslim. Or kama qal, because he said that the fitan, the tribulations, will come over you like the dark night comes over you. Be quick to do good deeds, because the fitna will come over you so fast, like the dark night comes over you, so fast. In one hadith, in fact, another hadith, he said, Al-ayatun kharazatun manzumatun fi silk. فَإِنْ يَقْطَعُ السِّلْكِ يَتْبَعْ بَعْضُهَا بَعْضًا. Or kama qal, he says that the signs before the end of time are like pearls on a string. And when the string is cut, then all the pearls will follow one after the other. There will be a successive flow of all of these signs coming one after the other. And so in this hadith he said, be quick to do good deeds, because fitna will come upon you the way the dark night comes over you. يُصْبِحُ الرَّجُلُ مُؤْمِنًا وَيُمْسِي كَافِرًا وَيُمْسِي مُؤْمِنًا وَيُصْبِحُ كَافِرًا. A man will be a believer in the morning, and by the evening he's a disbeliever. And in the evening he's a believer, and by the morning he's a disbeliever. Why? The Prophet said, يَبِيعَ دِينَهُ بِأَرْضٍ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. In one narration, قَلِيل. He says he will sell his religion for a small price from this world. He will sell his religion for a small price in this world. Now I want you to think about this hadith. The beginning of the hadith says, بَادِرُ بِالْأَعْمَالِ. Go and be quick towards good deeds. The ending of the hadith says, people will lose their iman, their faith, because of the dunya. Why is the Prophet telling us to be quick in doing good deeds? Think about the Quran. In the Quran, Allah is telling us again and again to be quick. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ مِنْ قَبْلِ يَأْتِيَ يَوْمٌ. O you who believe, spend out of what Allah has provided for you before a day comes. And this comes again and again in the Quran. إِسْتَجِيبُوا لِرَبِّكُمْ مِنْ قَبْلِ يَأْتِيَ يَوْمٌ. Before a day comes to you. You know, Allah says, so many places in the Quran, do this before a time comes to you. أَلَمْ يَأْنِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Hasn't the time arrived for the hearts of those who believe to humble themselves at the remembrance of Allah, and not be like those who received the book before them, the Jews and the Christians? فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمَدِ. Time became prolonged for them. فَقَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. And then their hearts became hard. So the Prophet is saying, do good deeds now before a time comes where maybe your heart will become so hard, it's so easy to fall off the edge. Like what happened to people, like this hadith that tells us. People fall off the edge because they have just simply delayed and delayed and delayed. Allah is saying again and again, do it now, do it now. Do the good deeds now before tomorrow comes. Because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring upon you. And these are some, and only a few, of the signs before the end of time, and there are so many. The Prophet spoke about deception, he spoke about natural upturnings, phenomena like a lot of zalazil, a lot of earthquakes will take place. You know, he spoke about people would lie. He spoke about people would just be engrossed in musical instruments, and dances would increase, Like I mentioned, Luka ibn Lateef, he said in the one hadith that the as'ad al-nasi fi dunya, the happiest people on earth will be the Luka ibn Luka, will be the one who is ignoble and just Lateef, just the one who is low, safi. He will be the happiest person on earth. You see, happiest person because he has nothing to give the world except an image of himself. Look at me. Look at me. And this is like the craze of the selfie. There is an obsession, by the way, you know, with the selfie. An obsession. You know, if you think that that's how you're going to project yourself to the world, just with an image of yourself, look at me, how I am looking today, from this image and that image and this look and this looking, that, look at where I am, look at how I'm standing with this celebrity and look at where I am. I mean, does that equal your greatness? Does that equal your value? Does that add any other thing of benefit to the world, what you're doing? No. Because we've moved away from ideals and we've just stuck ourselves into the world of images. The Prophet says towards the end of time, لَتَتَّبِعُنَّ سَنَنَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ شِبْرًا بِشِبْرٍ وَذِرَاءً بِذِرَاءٍ. You will follow the ways of those who came before you, handspan by handspan, cubit by cubit. حتى لو دخلوا في جحر الضب لاتبعتموهم, until if one of them was to fall down the hole of a lizard, you would follow him down the hole of a lizard. Yeah, I spoke about this yesterday, that in the 1930s a man called Walter Lippmann wrote a book called Public Opinion, and he coined this term called the bewildered herd. The bewildered herd. Herd is like a group of cows, they just grow off and eat together and, you know, walk together. They're just a herd and they're bewildered, confused, they don't know what's happening in the world. And this is what they want us to act like the bewildered herd. You know, in the West we have these mega sales, not even sales actually, but when they release items, products, what happens? It creates this frenzy. You know, in funny story, in America they released these trainers called Nike Air Jordan 2 Retro Concord, that's the name of the trainers. And they release these trainers in America. But then they tell people we're releasing these trainers, but they know themselves the shop will just stock maybe, I don't know, 40, 50 of them. But there will be 500 people waiting outside the shops. And they would have slept there for 2-3 days before the shop opened. And they're all waiting there. And each one is waiting, I want to get my trainers fast. And then what happens? They know there's a stampede, just like a herd stampede, about to come rush inside the shop. And then they open the doors. And everybody rushes in. There was a guy in the stampede of coming to buy these new trainers who lost his own shoes. I thought that's a sign. That's a sign. The guy lost his own shoes in trying to buy shoes. They broke off the hinges of the doors. When the people have brought the products, the shoes, they have to be escorted back to their cars with armed police. Because other people will just come and say, have this hasad, envy. The Prophet said, تَتَنَافَسُونَ ثُمَّ تَتَحَاسَدُونَ ثُمَّ تَتَدَابَرُونَ ثُمَّ تَتَبَاغَضُونَ. Exactly as he said, you're just going to have this crazy envy, and it's going to make you hate one another. Recently, in the last sales, in England and in America, there was a woman, in England there was a woman who had pepper spray. And there was young kids with their parents going off with these computer, Xbox, whatever, Nintendo, whatever, taking them out. And the woman, caught live on camera, is pepper spraying the kids in the faces, on the faces, you know, and spraying the mother so she can take the box. I mean, what's the big deal? Wait for tomorrow, buy the thing tomorrow. What's the obsession? But this is what they said. So Walter Lippmann said they're going to become like this. Because they're manufacturing a society that would make you like this. But our Prophet warned us so long ago, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that this is what the world is going to be like. So you have to protect yourself, protect your deen,